The Butcher of Plainfield. Today we're going to explore one of the most disturbing true crime stories in American history, a story so shocking that it inspired some of the most famous horror movies ever made. Psycho, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the Silence of the Lambs. This is the story of Ed Gein, a quiet man from a small town who carried some of the darkest secrets the world had ever seen. Welcome to Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield. Ed Gein was born in 1906 in Wisconsin. His childhood was troubled from the very start. His father, George, was an alcoholic who struggled to keep a job. But the real force in the house was Ed Gein, Ed's controlling, extremely religious mother. Augusta taught her sons that the world was full of sin. She told them women, except herself, were evil, dirty, and dangerous. She isolated the boys from everyone in town, poisoning their minds with guilt and fear. Ed grew up shy, lonely, and socially awkward. He rarely talked to other kids. He never dated. His entire world was his mother, and he worshipped her. But under that quiet surface, something dark was growing. In 1940, Ed's father died from heart failure caused by years of drinking. Ed and his older brother Henry kept the farm running, but Henry started questioning their mother's teachings. Henry worried about Ed's obsession with Augusta. He tried to pull Ed away from her control. But in 1944, tragedy struck. While the brothers were burning brush on the property, the fire grew out of control. Ed said he lost sight of Henry. Hours later, Ed led police straight to Henry's body, lying face down, unburned, but bruised. Authorities called it an accident. But years later, investigators would wonder, was this Ed's first kill? After Henry's death, Ed had only one person left, Augusta. But the following year, she suffered a stroke and soon passed away. For Ed, this was devastating. He believed she was the only good person he had ever known. When she died, something inside him broke. The farm fell into silence. He boarded up her bedroom so no one could touch it, keeping it exactly as she left it. But the rest of the house slowly turned into a dark, filthy cave. Ed was completely alone and completely unsupervised. After his mother's death, Ed began reading medical books, anatomy manuals, and stories about Nazi experiments. He became fascinated with death, bodies, and human anatomy. He also started visiting the local cemetery at night. Sometimes he said he went just to feel close to his mother. Other times, he dug up freshly buried women who reminded him of her. Ed Gein didn't just steal bodies. He used them. He brought them home. He experimented on them. He turned them into objects. What he created inside that farmhouse was beyond imagination. In 1954, a local tavern owner named Mary Hogan disappeared without a trace. Police found blood on the floor, but no body. People joked about it in town. Plainfield was small. Crimes like this almost never happened. Ed, who often made strange comments, once said, "Mary's not missing. She's at my place." Everyone laughed. Ed was the town oddball. Harmless, they thought. They had no idea how literal his words were. On November 16, 1957, the hardware store owner, Bernice Worden, vanished. Customers found the store empty and the cash register open. A trail of blood led out the back door. The last person seen at the store that morning was Ed Gein. Police went to question him later that day, but Ed wasn't home. They entered the farm to look for him. What they found is now one of the most horrifying discoveries in crime history. The farmhouse was freezing, filthy, and filled with junk. But the real horror was in the kitchen. There, police found the body of Bernice Worden, hanging upside down like a hunted deer. Her body had been cut open, cleaned, and prepared, and then they searched the rest of the house. What they found did not seem humanly possible. Bowls made from human skulls, lampshades made of human skin, a belt made of nipples, masks created from faces, a box filled with noses, female body parts preserved in jars, and worst of all, an entire skin suit, sewn together from women Ed had dug up or killed. Ed later explained that he put on the skin suit to become his mother, to walk around the house as a woman. It was one of the darkest crimes the world had ever seen. When police questioned Ed, he spoke calmly, almost politely. He admitted to grave robbing. He admitted to making objects from human remains. He admitted to killing Bernice Worden and eventually Mary Hogan. But Ed insisted he never meant to hurt the women. He said he was in a daze controlled by powerful fantasies. Psychologists diagnosed him as mentally insane. In 1958, Ed Gein was found not guilty by reason of insanity. He spent the rest of his life in psychiatric institutions. He stayed quiet, polite, and harmless, just like he had been in Plainfield. He died in 1984 at the age of 77. The farm where his crimes took place was burned to the ground, possibly by locals who wanted the nightmare erased forever. But the fear, the legend, lived on. Ed Gein committed only 2 confirmed murders, but the things he did with the bodies he stole and the ones he created shocked the world. He became the inspiration for horror icons. Norman Bates and Psycho Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs. Ed Gein was not a monster from a movie. He was a quiet, lonely man in a small town who hid unthinkable darkness behind a soft, shy smile. And that is the true story of Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield.